At Mill Hill there was a social club and it was called Nimrod. It was originally based in the old Kuiper building, which was over by the maintenance workshop, and it provided a bar area. This was before Medawar's Institute bar, so this will be in the early 60s, and it also had table tennis and snooker, and also of course there were sports fields and there was a sports pavilion at the bottom of the field, and all of this was called the Nimrod Social Club, and I think we were all in it. We all subscribed. I'm not sure whether it was mandatory to be in it, but I was in it. We all subscribed to Nimrod. I've got my original Nimrod membership card somewhere in my archive box of stuff at home. And I became involved in Nimrod later on. I think the first major involvement I had was running the children's party. That would be when my first child got to 4 years old, and she would be eligible to go to the Christmas party for children, and that was for children between the ages of 4 and 12. And so when Vicky became 4, Vicky's my eldest daughter, I became interested in the children's party, and at the time the chap who was running it was leaving, and I said, okay, I'll run it. And it was quite involved. I can remember the first year that I ran it, I didn't sleep a wink the night before. I was so worried that it wouldn't go right, and the format was the children would turn up. Well, before the children turned up, of course, there was buying of the presents. I used to go down to this wholesaler's in West Hendon called, I think it was Morris Manning, I think was something like that was the name of the wholesaler. It had all this crappy old stuff from China, mouth organs and various things, all sorts of stuff, little handbags for the girls with pearls all over them, all sorts of things, and kaleidoscopes, this sort of stuff. Quite good for the money. And they weren't very expensive, and we would wrap these up. Every child would get an individual present, and we would know which child got what. So the next year they didn't get the same one. So it was quite a lot of work, and I got some of the girls to help me do this, which was all very nice, you know. So this girl and I could go down to West End and buy all this stuff. And then the day of the actual party turned up, and the first thing that we would have would be the entertainers, and that was Auntie Wendy and Naughty Uncle Wally, who were the entertainers we'd always had, and I didn't change it at all when I was running it. And the big worry was if they didn't turn up. And so once I saw their car turn up, that was a huge relief, because I knew everything else would be all right. After an hour of Uncle Wally and Auntie Wendy in the Fletcher Hall, there would be lunch, or Christmas dinner, or whatever it was called, and that would have been organised by the canteen ladies, and the canteen ladies were brilliant. And I had them in my palm of my hands. They would provide sandwiches and jelly and all the stuff that we wanted. It was all funded by Nimrod, you know, Nimrod would pay. And I think there might have been a contribution from the Directors' Fund. Are we allowed to mention the Directors' Fund? Not quite sure, but anyway, I've mentioned it. So they would have lunch, and then after lunch there would be a film show. And the film show would be Walt Disney cartoons shown on 16mm film. We had a 16mm projector up in the Fletcher Hall. I could use that, and I'd already obtained these films. I used to send off to the Rank organisation in, I think it was the Great West Road. They had a place where you could hire cine films from, and we used to get you know, Mickey Mouse and Pluto and all the old Walt Disney. Wonderful, because in those days there wasn't that much of it on the telly like there is now, so the kids hadn't seen a lot of this, and it was a real treat for them. And then after the film show, Father Christmas. So I'd got somebody to dress up as Father Christmas. I would commandeer somebody, it was never me, to dress up in a Father Christmas outfit, and they would give out all these presents to the kids, and that was the children's party. And I ran that, well, I think I ran that until my eldest daughter was 12. So that would be, well, 8 years I ran the children's party. Because of the running of the children's party, I was familiar with the 16mm projector. I had a phone call from a scientist in Cambridge, Huxley, I don't know his Christian name, I don't remember. He said, you know, he was coming to Mill Hill to give a talk, and he wanted to show some old silly films, 16mm. Did we have a facility to show 16mm film? And I said, well, years ago we used to show 16mm film cartoons for the children's party. We haven't used the projector since then. It was quite a few years earlier. I didn't know whether it still worked or not. I hadn't got any 16mm film, but I would see if I could find some and check the projector worked. And so I put the word round saying, has anybody seen any old 16mm film anywhere? No, nobody had seen any. And then someone said, oh, down in Ian Sutherland's old office on the top shelf there's a load of old cans of film, we don't know what they are. So down I went, and to cut a long story short, the film up there was of the King and Queen opening the institute, plus a load of other wonderful archive film of the laboratories in the 1960s, with the Duke of Edinburgh visiting in 1963, I think it was, and various other things like that. I transferred all that film onto DVD, and I eventually sent a copy to Buckingham Palace.